Bewear is debuting in Pokemon Go with its Community Day on April 23rd. So of course people want to know, is Bewear any good in Pokemon Go? And I'd say overall it's very okay. In this video, I'm going to let you guys know just how good Bewear is in the raid and PvP metas, and I'm also going to give you some breakpoint information, and I'm also going to talk about Drain Punch a little bit too. So let's get into it. So when it comes to the Bewear basics, Bewear is a fighting normal type Pokemon. It has a level 40 max CP of 3,117 and a level 50 cap of 3,524. When it comes to its stats, it has a 226 attack stat, which basically cements the fact that it's probably not going to be that great in the raid meta. When it comes to its defense, we got 141, and stamina is 260. So while the attack stat is fairly high, I feel like the stamina stat does give it a little bit more leeway when it comes to PvP content. When it comes to Bewear's move pool, we have Tackle, Low Kick, and Shadow Claw for the fast moves. So as a fighting type raid attacker, Low Kick is a pretty mediocre fast move, so that pretty much spells out its demise as far as a raid attacker goes. I mean, what did you expect? Pokemon Go really doesn't seem to have a large focus on its raid attackers, which is pretty unfortunate. It's pretty infrequent that we get anything that could possibly be better for raid attacking, and then even then we have to pray that they get the good move set to go along with it. I don't know, if you're starved for some new raid attackers, comment below, let me know, and maybe I'll throw together some content like the top 5 or 10 Pokemon to keep your eyes peeled for the future. Fingers crossed that they actually get a good move set for raids, right? But back to Bewear here. Shadow Claw is pretty nice for PvP because without Shadow Claw, I don't think Bewear learns any like useful fast moves for PvP in Pokemon Go, like from the main series games. So Shadow Claw is what it needed to not be a super chump like it is in raids, and it got it. So congratulations to Bewear. When it comes to the charge move pool, without the Community Day Drain Punch, we got Superpower, Payback, and Stomp, all of which are okay enough, especially combined with Shadow Claw, but it's like, you know, Superpower is great. It does big damage for a low energy cost, but it debuffs your attack stat, so it's kind of, you know, you can't do back-to-back superpower as cool as you can do back-to-back close combat. And then payback is kind of like a worse version of Shadow Ball in terms of both its energy cost, damage, and the typing. Ghost has better neutral coverage than Dark does, and then Stomp's just kind of a mediocre attack overall. It's like the super budget body slam, if that makes sense. 40 energy costs instead of 35. Not very good base power, so not a lot of Pokemon are very excited to get Stomp. So could things kind of turn around with Drain Punch? Well, more on that a little bit later in the video. When it comes to Bewear in the PvP meta, I feel like it's most comparable to Zangoose. Both Bewear and Zangoose have relatively low stat products. They're not exactly tanky Pokemon. In fact, you can see they have like fairly comparable defense stats on top of that. Bewear does of course have the greater stamina, but when it comes to their move pools, they both have the Shadow Claw, but Zangoose has the superior close combat. So close combat has a 5 greater energy cost than what superpower has, but the key difference is that close combat doesn't debuff your attack stat. So when you throw close combat, you're not just kind of a sitting duck after that, like you can be with superpower. You throw in superpower, your opponent shields it or something, and now your attack stat is reduced. You're doing less damage to the opponent, and Bewear is like kind of slow enough and soft hitting enough where it kind of neutralizes itself as a threat. Most Pokemon, for the most part, don't really appreciate using superpower for the most part. Then when it comes to their dark type attacks, Payback, like I said, is kind of the bad version of Shadow Ball to begin with, and then Zangoose here has Night Slash. And Night Slash has that low energy cost, so it's a pretty quick attack, 35 energy cost, so lower than 40. So if you think about Night Slash combined with close combat is actually like as low energy cost as superpower if you kind of look all around in that respect with it. And then it also has the 1/8 chance of boosting your attack stat by 2 stages, making Zangoose that much more of a threat. And comparing their matchups in a matrix simulation in the Great League and in the Ultra League, Bewear doesn't really have a whole lot to offer over Zangoose, aside from a couple niche matchups where it's able to take advantage of its fighting subtype. But how many Zangooses have you seen lately in the Great League and the Ultra League? Not a lot, right? And if Bewear is kind of overall a worse version of Zangoose, Like, what does that exactly mean for Bewear in the meta? Like, no one's going to look at Zangoose and say Zangoose is a bad Pokemon. We all know that Zangoose is a pretty capable and formidable Pokemon. I mean, just look at Caleb Pang's channel, using Zangoose all over the place, or at least in the past, right? So Bewear being kind of like a slightly worse version, I don't think that bodes super well for Bewear. Now, of course, there is that ray of hope that comes in with Drain Punch. But Drain Punch is a whole other problem in and of itself. When it comes to the current data mine on Drain Punch, it only has 20 base power for a 40 energy cost. Now, of course, the benefit's supposed to be that it boosts your defense stat by 1 stage. And I mean, if they're going to be making the attack that bad, obviously the defense buff has to be good. But it turns out that it's actually kind of counterproductive if you really think about it. Like, if you're increasing your defense stat, it's to mitigate damage. It's supposed to be for damage mitigation. But when it comes to Drain Punch, because it has such a low base power, it actually kind of fails in its job to mitigate damage. The best way I can put it for you is, like, if you use Power Up Punch, right, on like a Medicham or something, you can mitigate damage from your opponent by closing the fight out sooner. All the fast move damage that you don't take because you KO your opponent sooner is considered damage mitigation at the end of the day. And if that boosted attack stat allows you to KO your opponent, or if you're using like a powerful bait move like, I don't know, Body Slam or something, for instance, if that KOs your opponent before they can reach another charge move, then all that damage you could have taken from a charge move can be considered damage mitigation. The fact that you don't have to spend a shield to block those attacks could be considered team support, right? So when it comes to Drain Punch, while you do boost your defense stat by 1 stage, because the damage is so low, only 20 base power, it doesn't do enough damage to your opponent to really like accelerate them getting KO'd. If anything, it kind of prolongs the fight because you're spending that energy for that little bit of damage that you could have spent on like Payback or Superpower instead. Even Stomp, in many cases, would be more powerful, or I guess more useful, because it's obviously more powerful than Drain Punch. So while it is a damage reducing attack in the sense that it buffs your defense, I think it fails in the sense that it prolongs the fight, causes you to take more damage. And just looking at like the majority of matchups with Bewear, with Drain Punch, even doing my own kind of like homebrewed, you know, sandbox kind of battles in PV Poke, so we get more utilization out of Drain Punch. Drain Punch just kind of fails left and right. And I feel like if they want to make Drain Punch a better attack, they're probably going to have to amp up that base power quite significantly. And I don't think it would be that unreasonable for them to buff Drain Punch in that respect. Now, I don't want to drag on this video by talking about everything they could do or should do with Drain Punch and defense buffing moves and stuff like that. I think that would be good for a separate video. I just want to make it clear right now, with how things are in the current Game Master, the Drain Punch that we're very likely going to get on its community day, it's a pretty mediocre attack. It's pretty bad and is objectively a bad move for Bewear to use in the current state of the game and with how its stats are. And I firmly believe that even if it had a 35 energy cost instead of 40, that really wouldn't do anything for it either. You still have the problem that you're spending that energy to not really get a benefit. You're not truly mitigating damage because you're prolonging the fight. So yeah, so final verdict on Bewear. Despite Drain Punch looking so bad, and despite its move pool effectively making it like a slightly worse version of Zangoose, I think the sub-fighting type on Bewear does give it enough to stand out from Zangoose in that it could be a powerful Pokemon in Cups. And it's not so far behind Zangoose in performance that it's like absolutely a worse Zangoose, right? I just find Zangoose to be a little bit more useful than it. But I think people will be able to utilize this Pokemon well and get wins with it. And if you find the right Cup format, I think this Pokemon could be pretty useful in that Cup format. As it stands right now, though, probably not with Drain Punch. By the way, if you want some breakpoint information on Bewear, you know, because even though this thing is pretty mediocre, you may as well make sure you get some good IVs. I found that a very slight attack weight of 128.98 can help out pretty well against Sableye. So if it's a purified Sableye with a higher defense weight, then that ever so slight attack weight, the rank 1 Bewear, for instance, has a 128 ish attack stat, right? So it's not that big of a deal to get that attack weight. Could make your matchup against Sableye that much more consistent. If you do want to push higher up in attack, going for like a 130.84 can give you some benefits against Frostlass and Galarian Stunfisk specifically, depending on their IVs. So I think that the 130.84 is a good like higher attack weighted Bewear. When it comes to the defense stat, nothing super obvious stood out to me aside from having 86.9 defense, which helps out against Walrein. Basically, Walrein's a pretty bad fight for you, but it makes it a little bit easier to have the 86.9 defense. But like, if Walrein has the attack stat where it gets a breakpoint on a Azumarill, then it doesn't matter how much defense you have, it's going to get the attack breakpoint on you too. So yeah, just some light information to help guide you and your Bewear picks. I mean, at the end of the day, if you just build like the rank 1 or something, I think that'd be perfectly okay too. At any rate, that's all I gotta say about Bewear right now. If you got any questions on this content, of course, comment below, let me know what's up, and I'll be happy to help you out. And if you enjoyed this kind of content, you want to see more like it, maybe you want a breakdown about why Drain Punch is so bad further than what you got in this video, well, make sure to subscribe to SwagTips. SwagTips. I'd also like to give a special shout out to these Patreon supporters. If you want to support Swagman on Patreon, link in the description. You know, honestly, I thought this GIF was going to be a little bit more entertaining, but he's just standing there, wobbling. What are you doing, Bewear?